Hello again everyone, this is Santotaku with Team by the Trigger, bringing you another deck profile. Today I am showing you my variation on the Spectral Duke deck, which I took to my weekly tournament last week and went 4-0. We usually play 4 rounds of Swiss format, and I went completely undefeated on the day. I took every game, so it's been a while. This deck is sort of a slump buster for me because I have not gone undefeated in a while with my oracles, just a string of bad luck, I would say. But anyway, I wanted to share this deck with you and get your opinion on it. Starting from the top, 4 copies of Spectral Duke Dragon, obviously a very key component of the deck. He is how you, you really pressure your opponent or with his effect, with his limit break, or you win the game. So he's a really solid unit. 4 copies of Garmor. In addition to being Spectral Duke deck, this is also a Garmor toolbox. It's really key. You get to use Duke's limit break, and you follow up immediately next turn by running into a Garmor to have 15k attacker to finish the game off, as well as replenishing your field. So this is a great 1-2 punch. And Garmor, if you don't get the ride chain, Garmor is one of the best gold paladin grade 3s you can ask for outside of Duke. So moving on to the grade 2 lineup, we have 4 copies of Black Knight Vortimer. I am going with the full ride chain in this build. To be honest, it doesn't come up too often, but the deck is built in such a way that when you do get the ride chain off, it really puts a underscore on the advantage that the deck can generate. So I like having it, and as a 9k beater, it makes more sense to run this than, for example, Balmain's, which is just 1k power more. So it's has a solid place in the deck. 4 copies of Lop-Ear Shooter. This card is obviously your target when you use Garmor right after a Duke limit break. It allows you to replenish your field, get boosters, get attackers, whatever you happen to need. And again, it's 9k. It's just as good as Balmain's in most situations, as long as you have a booster behind it. So I run 4 copies of it. I really prefer this to Trip Mage and Vivian, because I don't have to hit my opponent. I just pull this out of the deck and I get the effect. Way too often I think people are really reliant on Vivian, and I just don't think, its effect is great, but I don't think it's really reliable, and Lop-Ear is reliable. You're going to get off Lop-Ear's effect at least once a game, whereas Vivian, you may never see it activate in an entire tournament because people are just so focused on blocking it. So, great card. Rounding it off is 2 Nemean Lions. So people don't really see Special Interceptors coming, and I have another reason to run this in this deck that I will touch on a bit later, but solid card. So that was 10 grade 2s. I'm going to move on to the grade 1s. 4 copies of Gareth. It is an 8k beat stick. You can't ask for much else. It helps your Nemean Lion hit the magic number. It helps pretty much everything hit magic numbers. You can pair them together. Anything above a 7k appreciates a Gareth boosting it. So solid card. Speaking of 7ks, we have 4 copies of Scout of Darkness Vortimer, essential for the ride chain. 7k booster is solid. Slagle Dagger is probably another good option, but since I'm running the ride chain, I'm using 4 copies of him. 3 marks. This past weekend I actually had all 4, but I had to give one of them back. Gareth comes out for a 4th mark if you're looking to build this deck for yourself. 2 Didrains. This card comes up off of the Duke ride chain a lot. It's really clutch, where you get to, you sacrifice something, you call 2 off the deck, oh look, a Didrain, Soul Blast 1, and draw a card, and you get a huge bonus off of her. So, and of course, if you've gone through all your Lop-Ears, or if you don't need a 9k, Garmor can pull a Didrain out of the deck, and you get a +1 off that too, so that's pretty solid. 2 Blackmane Witches. I'm really shocked a lot more people don't run this card. Her effect is choose another one of your gold paladin rearguards and retire it. When this unit is placed on the vanguard or rearguard circle, if you have a gold paladin vanguard, you would pay a cost. If you do, look at the top card of your deck and search for up to 1 gold paladin card from among them. and call it to an open rearguard spot, put the rest at the bottom of your deck. So if you, a lot of times off the Ride Chain or off of Zell's on this deck, but this is just overall, you're going to get a trigger or a useless card. Like you need something in the back row and you end up getting a grade 2. This can fix those situations. So you drop a black main, you get rid of your lop your shooter that you had to put in the back row, and you get to call another card off the top of your deck, giving you another chance to correct those columns. This is really clutch. One thing that I really like doing too is that if I don't get the Ride Chain, if I miss the grade 1, I have my my Scout Vortimer here. Turn 1, I ride into my Black Mane Witch. I move this back. It's still you still have enough time to activate Black Mane's effect. Sacrifice Vortimer, who is a useless 4K booster, and get a Nemi line or whatever else off the top of your deck to generate a little bit of advantage here. So that's a really cool use out of her, and she gets rid of. I mean, there are so many cards in this deck that are on call from the deck or whatnot. So she can get rid of those cards to get more activation. So I really like Black Mane Witch. I think more people should run it. Moving on to the trigger lineup. 4 copy of Elixir Sommelier. 4 copies of Silent Punisher. 4 copies of Weapon Stealer Gwydion. And finally, 4 Speeder Hounds. So there are 8 draw triggers in the deck, which is sort of unorthodox, but that's where the Nemi Alliance come in. So most people run 6 crit, 6 draw, and that works really well because the crits end up winning you games in a lot of situations. But what I want to do with this deck is generate an insane amount of hand advantage. And this is probably coming from a person who plays Oracle Think Tank way too often, but I love having cards in hand. So between these draw triggers activating on defense and getting them on the offense, you get to generate enormous hand size because of the Ride Chain, freeing up your plays for the turn. On top of that, 5k booster, solid behind your Vanguard. It's an easy discard with Lop Your Shooter. If you ever end up in a situation where you get to call Lop Your out of the deck, you need something to discard, but you have so many cards in your hand that would be useful in so many situations. You don't want to discard a 10k shield. A trigger, specifically a draw trigger, is perfect for discarding out of your hand. So I like running 8 because of the amount of advantage that you can generate. And you don't end up losing out on shields because the Nemi Alliance end up making up for it a little bit because you get to put these in play and you get your 10k shields back. So I never had real shield problems. I just had huge advantage all day over my opponents, and it was just really solid at 8 draw. I recommend you try it sometime. Not for every deck, but definitely if you have a Ride Chain or something where you're generating a little bit of advantage, look into the extra draw triggers. So that was my deck. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, and starting Vanguard. Yeah. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the deck. I suggest you try it out yourself. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them below. Until next time, this is